East Palestine, Ohio, February 3rd, 2023. 38 cars leave the rails at 8:54 in the evening. Within hours, 5 tank cars holding 1 million pounds of vinyl chloride are burning in a controlled explosion that sends a mushroom cloud of black smoke visible for 50 miles. 2,000 people evacuate. The town becomes a symbol. Politicians fly in, cameras eventually leave, and somewhere in the cycle of news and outrage and forgetting, almost nobody stopped to ask the one question that actually matters. If that wasn't a freak accident, if it was a system doing exactly what systems do, then what city is next? I'm going to walk you through 5 things about the East Palestine derailment that the news cycle rushed past. Each one is more significant than the last. But before we get into any of them, I want to put one thing in your mind and leave it there. There is a category of information that federal law does not require railroads to share with the communities their trains pass through. Not before an incident, not during, not after. By the end of this video, I want you to understand what that information is and what it means specifically for the people living in Akron, Ohio right now. We'll come back to it. First, the 5 things. 1. The NTSB said it was 100% preventable. When the National Transportation Safety Board released its final investigation report in July of 2024, a 201-page document that took 16 months to produce, the board's conclusion was not that a freak bearing failure caused a tragic and unforeseeable accident. The board's conclusion was the opposite. NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy used the phrase 100% preventable in her public remarks before the board voted on its findings. That is not a qualifier. That is the final word from the federal agency responsible for determining what happened and why. Here is what the evidence showed. The train that derailed in East Palestine, Norfolk Southern Train 32N, had been picked up in Madison, Illinois 2 days earlier. As it moved east through Ohio, a wheel bearing on one of the hopper cars was overheating. Hot bearing detectors are placed along rail lines specifically to catch this. The train passed a detector in East Palestine. The alarm went critical. The crew began slowing using dynamic braking, but the spacing between detectors, combined with the speed of the failure, meant the warning came too late to stop the derailment. The bearing gave out. The axle separated. 38 cars left the tracks. 3 DOT 111 tank cars, a car type long criticized for its relatively low structural standard, were mechanically breached during the derailment. Flammable liquid spilled and ignited. The fire grew, and then the fire reached 5 other tank cars that had not been breached during the derailment, but were now being exposed to sustained heat. Those 5 cars were carrying vinyl chloride. This is not the story of an unavoidable catastrophe. According to the NTSB's own findings, the detector spacing, the car design, the braking decisions, all of it was documented. All of it was known risk territory, and none of it had been corrected. That is what 100% preventable means. 2. 3 days later, they made a decision in 13 minutes that they did not have to make. On the evening of February 6th, 3 days after the derailment, a contractor working for Norfolk Southern told emergency managers that the temperature inside one of the vinyl chloride tank cars was rising. The concern? A chemical process called polymerization could be occurring inside the car. If that process continued, the pressure could build to the point of an uncontrolled explosion, what emergency responders call a BLEVE, a boiling liquid expanding vapor explosion. Norfolk Southern and its contractors presented one option: vent the cars, and burn the contents in a controlled release. The East Palestine fire chief and Ohio Governor Mike DeWine were given 13 minutes to decide. They approved the vent and burn. Residents within a mile radius were evacuated. Explosive charges cut holes in the tank cars. Approximately 1 million pounds of vinyl chloride was released and ignited. The black cloud rose over the town. The images went global. 16 months later, the NTSB concluded that the vent and burn was not necessary. The board determined that the decision had been made based on what investigators described as incomplete and misleading information provided by Norfolk Southern and its contractors. The manufacturer of the vinyl chloride, a company called Oxy Vinyls, had provided information suggesting polymerization was not occurring. That information, according to the NTSB, was not fully communicated to the Unified Command making the decision on the ground. 3 alternative proposals for removing the tank car contents had been rejected before the vent and burn was authorized. What was released in that burn was not just vinyl chloride. Incomplete combustion of vinyl chloride produces byproducts, including phosgene, a poison gas used as a chemical weapon in World War I, and dioxins, which are persistent carcinogens that do not break down easily in soil or living tissue. Both entered the environment over East Palestine that evening. Read that sentence again if you need to. Phosgene, dioxins, in the air over a residential community. Because of a decision made in 13 minutes, based on information that the NTSB later determined was incomplete and misleading, for a procedure that the same investigators concluded was not necessary. 3. A year later, they found it in the bodies. Beginning in April of 2023, a research team led by scientists in the United Kingdom began tracking health impacts in East Palestine and the surrounding area. The team was looking specifically for a vinyl chloride metabolite called hydroxyethyl mercapturic acid, HEA, which the body produces when it processes vinyl chloride exposure. Because vinyl chloride itself breaks down rapidly in the bloodstream, HEA is the only reliable biological marker for exposure after the fact. In July of 2023, 5 months after the derailment, the researchers tested urine samples from 19 non-smoking East Palestine residents. They found HEA present. The finding was scientifically notable on its own because HEA clears from the body quickly. Its presence 5 months after an exposure event suggests not a single acute dose, but ongoing contact with the chemical in the environment. Then, in 2024, researchers from Wayne State University's Lumagen Instrument Center ran a broader analysis. Their results? HEA was detected in 74% of East Palestine participants tested. For context, in a CDC national sample of 1,000 people, it appeared in only 5%. In a comparison community, Marietta, Ohio, a town of similar size elsewhere in the state, it appeared in 0 urine samples. 74% against 0. That is not statistical noise. That is a signature. If you live in Akron and that number doesn't land immediately, let me translate it. East Palestine has about 4,700 residents. Akron has about 190,000. The scale of what a similar event could mean for a larger city is not a hypothetical. The biology is already documented. What is not documented, what nobody is required to track, is whether the conditions that produced that biology could replicate themselves somewhere else along the same rail corridors. If you're watching from Akron, or from anywhere in the corridor between Illinois and the East Coast, drop a comment telling us what you've noticed. Train frequency, chemical smells, anything that seems different in your neighborhood. These local reports often surface patterns that federal agencies are slow to acknowledge. Your observation matters here. 4. The train didn't stop. It never stopped. On January 31st of 2024, exactly 1 year after the East Palestine derailment, researchers from Toxic Free Future published a report mapping the vinyl chloride supply route through the United States. What they found? On an average day, 32 million pounds of vinyl chloride travels by rail through Northeast Ohio. The route runs from production facilities in Texas, north through Ohio, toward facilities in Illinois and New Jersey. It passes through cities. It passes through suburbs. It passes through communities that have never been told what is moving through them on any given Tuesday afternoon. And the trains did not stop after East Palestine. According to a Howard Center for Investigative Journalism analysis of private train movement data, published in February 2025, 2 years after the derailment, at least twice a week on average, a Norfolk Southern train with cars displaying hazardous material placards for vinyl chloride and butyl acrylate moves through East Palestine itself. Through the same town, on the same tracks, past the same neighborhoods where, according to Wayne State's data, 74% of tested residents showed biological evidence of vinyl chloride exposure. A separate Howard Center analysis published in August 2025 found that over a 6-month tracking period, at least 130,000 rail cars displaying hazardous material placards moved along sections of the rail lines they analyzed. Those cars passed within 1 mile of the homes of at least 2.5 million people. Along those routes sat more than 1,000 schools and 80 hospitals. A train carrying hazmat releases at least 1,000 gallons of material in a derailment somewhere in the United States, approximately once every 2 months. According to the same analysis, nearly half of those derailments over the past decade resulted in evacuations. More than a quarter caused fires or explosions. Once every 2 months. That is not a rare catastrophic failure. That is a background rate. That is the system operating at its normal pace. 5. There is one thing I set aside before we got into the data. Here it is. The Toxic Free Future report estimated that more than 3 million people are at risk in the event of another major vinyl chloride derailment along the Northeast Ohio corridor. 32 million pounds moves through that corridor daily. The PHMSA, the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, maintains a public database of hazmat routing data that shows which chemicals move through which corridors and by which commodity type. The database is real. It is auditable. Anyone can look at it. What the database does not contain, what federal law does not require, is a notification to the people who live along those routes. There is no federal mandate requiring a railroad to inform a municipality that a train carrying vinyl chloride will pass through it this week. There is no requirement to notify the residents of Akron that 32 million pounds of a known human carcinogen moves by rail through Northeast Ohio every single day. There is no warning system triggered for the families living within a mile of the CSX or Norfolk Southern corridors that run through Summit County. No alert, no flyer, no hotline number pre-established before an incident. Nothing. The International Association of Firefighters Hazmat Training Director Jamie Burgess said it plainly to reporters last year. Most communities, he said, are probably not aware of what chemicals are going up and down the railroads in their backyard, day in and day out. He said it in the context of an investigation that also found most local fire departments lack the information, the training, the equipment, and the detailed emergency planning needed to safely respond in the immediate aftermath of a hazmat derailment. The gap between what is moving and what communities are prepared to handle is not theoretical. It is documented by the same federal agencies that approve the routes. East Palestine's fire department arrived at the derailment site and established a command post 400 feet from the wreckage, inside what emergency protocols designate as the hot zone. They called Norfolk Southern's dispatch center within minutes, trying to find out what was on the train. They were given 13 minutes to make a decision about 1 million pounds of vinyl chloride. They did not have a specialist in vinyl chloride polymerization on the phone. They had a contractor whose information the NTSB later determined was incomplete and misleading. East Palestine has 4,700 residents and 1 fire department. Akron has 190,000 residents, a rail corridor running through it, and the same absence of advance notification that East Palestine had on the evening of February 3, 2023. The difference between the two cities is not safety infrastructure. It is not preparedness. It is not proximity to a disaster that already happened. The difference, right now, is that one of them already knows what the system looks like when it fails. The other one is still waiting to find out.